Hello, hello, hello. It's Neil from Clever Property Investing. How are you today? I hope you're all well. I thought I'd do a little video this time on social housing. As most of you that follow me know, I've been involved in social housing for a very long time. It's where I started. It's the kind of thing I also had a letting agency running social housing for my properties and other landlords. Now, social housing is a fabulous strategy, and those of you who've been following me know the benefits from it. But there are also some downsides and some things that you need to know about when you're going into social housing. That's what I'm aiming to address today on this video. I want to give you the real story of a situation that's happened with me with one of my properties, just so that you know what can go wrong, what can go right, what you need to put in place to stop those kind of things from happening, which I hopefully you will find useful. I'm not going to mention areas or councils or anything like that because I don't think that's fair. But I will tell you it's in the south and it's kind of just an experience that I've had with a particular council. So this scenario is I had a or have a apartment stroke flat that's 2 bedrooms in the south, and I was approached by the council to allow social housing tenants. In this particular case, it was asylum seekers, and there is a different organisation dealing with asylum seekers. So we dealt direct with them. I spoke with them and had a chat with them, and they wanted to take the property on from me immediately, and they were prepared to pay the rent right from the word go and cover all the utility bills and council tax right from that agreement point until they put someone in the property, until they find a tenant for that property. And it was really the asylum seeker scenario. These were people that were probably being displaced from some kind of war zone or something like that, and they were being housed in the UK, possibly in hotels or other accommodation temporarily until they could find a place to live. And I was very keen to help with that. In this particular instant, it was people coming from Afghanistan who had been displaced because of the war, and they'd been sympathetic to the military over there. So, fine, sounds great. They were going to pay the rent, even though it was empty. They were going to pay all the bills, gas, electric, water, council tax, while it was empty, until a tenant was located. When a tenant was located, they wanted to go on to a straightforward AST tenancy agreement directly with me or the agency, for which the tenant or tenants would be on universal credit, and that universal credit would be paid directly to me. So there would be no challenges there of me trying to get the rent from them, etc., etc. And that all sounded fabulous. They wanted the property furnished. In this particular case, I did furnish it for them, and they paid me for the furniture. So I just went out and got some furniture. There is also a scenario where there are organizations around the country where the person moving in can have a credit, and they go to this organization and they select, sofas, chairs, tables, beds, wardrobes, all those kind of things, and then they get them delivered to them. But in this case, I had furnished it for them, and they just paid me for that, the furniture, and they paid me in full. There was no quibbling about the furniture. So, on the whole, on the scheme of it, looking at that sounds perfect, doesn't it? Sounds fabulous. And for 2 or 3 months, I think it might have been, there was no tenant in there, but I was getting paid a rent. Now, one of the things you need to think about when that's happening is your insurance says that when the property is empty, it has to be visited at a certain frequency. For example, it might be once a week, it might be once a month, whatever that insurance policy says. So during that empty period, I did explain to them I still have a key. I'm going to have to go in and check everything's okay. There's no burst pipes. The heating's still working okay. There's no problems. There's nobody tried to break in, etc., etc. So that was fine. And I did that on a weekly basis, or my colleague who works with me and for me, she went in too to just check this every week. For maybe 2 or 3 months, that's what happened. The rent popped in every month, and the bills were all being taken care of. Then they found a tenant, and they wanted me to come down to meet the tenant and bring the tenancy agreement that would be used. Now, in this particular case, I have my own letting agency. So I said, okay, we'll do it through my letting agency. I went down to meet the tenant, which was a young man, his wife and child. They were from Afghanistan. They also had the council had sent a support worker who also spoke their language so that we could communicate. I'd already pre-sent the tenancy agreement to the council, who translated it into the Afghanistan's language, so that they could read through it themselves and have that. We went down, met them, seemed like a lovely couple. I was very pleased to be helping somebody who has been put in this situation. We signed the tenancy agreement, and my understanding was that the support worker was going to be there all the way through to help along the lines of whatever they needed. And certainly for the first month or so, the support worker was. Then things started to happen. So, for example, the universal credit stopped being paid directly to me. So I had the first month's universal credit, no problem at all. In fact, no, the first month of the guy's rent, their council carried on paying. Then the universal credit stopped. So month 2 of the tenancy, no rent. So I phoned up the support worker at the council, and they started to say things like, oh, but the tenancy agreement is directly with the tenant, so you need to take it up with the tenant, but I will have a chat with them for you. And she was very helpful. She did phone the tenant. The tenant then started to say things like, I believe the council are paying my rent. I don't have to pay you rent. The universal credit is mine. And she explained that wasn't the case to him. I explained that wasn't the case to him. My colleague explained. So there's about three occasions where we had the conversations over the first week or two that the rent was overdue. So the rent still never came in. So again, I went back to the council, and the council at this particular situation is where you start to realize they were not particularly helpful in this scenario. They just kept saying, oh, well, I'll talk to him, but the universal credit and the agreement is between you. I kept reiterating that I only took this on under your understanding that you were going to support and you were going to help, and you made that agreement. First mistake, and something you should learn from. That verbal contract that I had, that they were going to support him, they were going to deal with everything to do with the rent, the bills, the council tax, the support the family needed and the landlord needed, was not in writing. That was a verbal agreement. So I had nothing in writing there that they said they were going, what they said they were going to do and what they actually did were two different things. So there's your first point. If you're going to do this, you must get an email, something in writing from the council, clearly stating what their responsibilities are going to be. I didn't have that. I took them on face value because I thought they were going to be genuinely decent people. So 2 months has gone by, the rent hasn't been paid. So we're at the situation where we have to issue an eviction notice, which is you're right on an AST. And that's what happened. We issued an eviction notice. The tenant all the way through this kept saying, it's not me, you have to speak to the council. The council need to pay the rent. And I kept saying this council, and the council would, it was like a little go circle around. So again, another point for you, you must act quickly. You can't leave this going on for months and months and months. As soon as you're able to act within the law, which is 2 months, you must act. And that's exactly what I did. Bang, in went the notice that they must be out of the property within 2 months. Sorry, on a non-payment of rent, that can be 2 weeks. So if they're 2 months rent in arrears, you can give them notice to leave within 2 weeks, which is what I did. Of course, this caused a lot of upset, confusion, etc., etc. And eventually, the tenant did leave and was moving out. I think within a month of being given the notice, they then said that they wanted their deposit back. Of course, the scenario is that deposit is only paid back once they've left and once we've inspected the property to make sure everything's okay. And he was trying to hold, I think, my colleague to ransom, so wouldn't give the keys back until she agreed to pay the deposit back to him. And again, we explained over and over again, no, you don't get the deposit back until we've inspected the property and you've moved all of the, because what also happened was he took all the furniture that was provided for him. So he moved somewhere else. He took all the furniture that was provided for him as well and left things he didn't really want. So there was stuff to get rid of. and there was a little bit of cleaning to be done. It didn't damage the property. They just didn't really move the things out they should have, and they didn't clean up after when they left. So there was a little bit of cost to be involved. We negotiated and we talked quite clearly with him, my colleague, and she explained to him that if he was going to another rental property, which he was planning to do, he was moving straight into a friend's house to start and storing the furniture in a van, that he wouldn't get a decent reference from us, and he wouldn't be able to rent another property if he didn't pay his it didn't get the keys back, and also pay up the rent. Funnily enough, that made him paid. So he paid both months in arrears rent, which he obviously had in his account from his Universal Credit, gave the keys back. We went and inspected, told him that we would have to claim a little bit of the deposit to move the furniture out and to clean. And on we go. So there was a positive ending to the whole scenario, which could have gone horribly wrong and could have been dragged on for months and months and months if I hadn't acted quickly and if I hadn't had a really good member of staff to explain the situation, and more than anything else, keep her cool head during the time, because the council worker, who was a young girl support worker, was getting very, very agitated with him, and she was shouting at him and telling him he can't have his deposit back. It's not his money. The council paid the deposit, all these kind of things, which was not helping the scenario. So there's a positive end to that. We got all the rent back. We got enough money to do any little works that needed to be done, and we moved forward, and we're now renting the property out again very quickly to a regular local person, not a asylum seeker, because we can get more rent this way. So hopefully that's a bit of a learning for you. Now, I don't want you to feel that asylum seekers or working with the council is a bad thing. What I want you to take from this is that you must be prepared, and you must have all of your written agreements in place. So whatever you have, and you talk to the council, whatever you say with them, have it in writing, have it confirmed what they're going to do, what their responsibility is, what they're not going to do, and then you can make a decision if you want to work with them or not. And this was a positive result for me because of the way I dealt with it and the way we dealt with the exit of the tenant in the end. So there's just a little insight into little things that could go wrong, can be set up properly from the beginning to avoid. So hopefully that's helpful. If you need any other help, let me know. If you want to have a chat, just get in touch. We'll have a 10-minute call and see if I can help you with whatever it is you're doing. It's Neil Stewart, Clever Property Investing. Speak to you soon. Take care.